Warm welcome to a special episode of the Monday Morning Learning Podcast. This is on the Silent Boardroom. Now, the Silent Boardroom is an initiative to support senior leaders navigating the uncertain space that often follows stepping away from significant roles. Now, this period can raise profound and sometimes unsettling questions. Who am I without the role, or how do I stay relevant, and what comes next are some of the unanswered questions. Now, to guide our conversation here, we have Pankaj. Thank you so much, Pankaj, and a very warm welcome and good morning to you.
Morning, Ravi.
So we've got five core themes, Pankaj, as we discussed, and there's some reflective questions which can actually help a lot of people, not just the leaders, but everyone who's actually undergone any layoff. So the five themes are the loss of identity and routine. Number two is navigating the in-between, the fear of becoming irrelevant, reimagining success, and finally, the fifth one is silent reflection as renewal. So, Pankaj, the first question is on how does a leader begin to rebuild a sense of self when their work has shaped their identity for decades? And what practices actually help ease the anxiety of losing daily structure and rhythm, according to you?
Yeah, thanks, Ravi. I think it's a very important topic these days because layoffs and these things are becoming more common than they were ever before. So I think whenever we are interpreting or thinking about a topic, I always think that maybe going back to first principles on what are we talking about, why are we talking about it, why is it important. So maybe let me share with you, Ravi, a few opening thoughts on what I think about this whole phenomena first, because whatever I will say will be in the context of my larger perspective on this topic. So I think if we look at just the job and the cooperation and the way we all live, I don't know exactly, but maybe corporations are 100, 150 year old. I don't know how long these corporations have existed. So I think the whole phenomena of going to a job, 9 to 5, all of those types of things is nothing, nothing that we have done forever. It's just in a human evolution, 100, 150 year old phenomena when the industrial revolution came in, and I think the industry required people to have fixed job because you were really quote unquote industrializing, you were creating things at scale and so on and so forth, right? So therefore, this whole idea of job is also relatively new and not as if it has always existed, and
Sure.
it was in the context of the industrial revolution, which required this structure to be created. Now, I think when this again, like I said, the industrial revolution industry was largely manufacturing oriented, where things were happening at scale. You had a factory, people had to go to that factory, work 9 to 5, and come back. So I think this whole idea related to jobs created in the manufacturing sector, so to say. So if you think of the economy as agriculture, manufacturing, and services,
Hmm.
the origin of this whole organization structure, organization design, jobs, all the paraphernalia that we live through, I think is rooted in manufacturing.
Hmm.
And then over time, the world of services came in. 90% of, I think, US GDP is made up of services. I don't think even these structures have really evolved properly
Hmm.
to take into account what a services economy needs. And we will sometimes find that many of our structures, behaviors, theories, motivation theory, all of them are still rooted in the old manufacturing era because that was the predominant sector. All the theories were created then, and I don't think we have reinvented many of those things for today's era. And
Hmm.
the new era of AI and those things is in my opinion a third era which is taking place already.
Right.
We haven't even adjusted to the basic services era from the manufacturing era, and the new era has come, and therefore many of those ideas, principles, assumptions, structures were anyway, in my opinion, becoming irrelevant, and now going to become even more irrelevant as we enter the third era of change that is happening, right? And
Sure.
therefore, what I'm really saying is that many of our ideas, structures, assumptions are rooted in that old industrial era, which had anyway long gone.
Hmm.
Was not even relevant in the this big tech era, which had started to happen, and services era, which was happening, and now the AI era will really decimate any remnants of that might have remained. So that is, I think, important to imagine.
Sure.
Now, what are some of the trends related to job that we were used to?
Hmm.
My dad sort of worked in the same company forever. If the company had not fallen sick and closed down, he may have retired here. right?
Mm,
And that era was marked with people having lifetime employment. Even in Japan and many other countries, it was assumed that these are large companies that will kind of stay forever, and you can just enter and stay there forever. General Electric company where I worked, there were people whose third generation was working over there, and
mm,
their parents and grandparents had spent their lifetime in that company.
yep,
So I think that industrial era gave rise to this idea that companies are long term places to be in, and you as a worker can go there and retire. And I
mm,
think that assumption was largely true for a long time,
mm,
because corporation manufacturing was a new phenomena. Factories were expected to last a long time. They wanted people who could be associated, and there was no need for anyone to be fired. Maybe initially even retire, but
mm,
then later on, retirement started to come in. Firing also started to come in because maybe things changed and the structure was not there, right? So I think the whole idea that lifetime employment or the office being a family and some of those things were earlier there, but
mm,
slowly I think they evolved because the corporation was a mechanism to bring labor and capital together to produce an output.
mm,
And as the nature of work changed, I think those assumptions started to take shape in different ways, where even employees said that I don't want to necessarily work forever in this one place.
yep,
I have options. Companies have options, and so on and so forth. And people would leave companies, and companies would terminate employees, and so on and so forth.
sure.
But I think many other ideas related to retirement, pension, saving were also very static. That salary will increase over time. You'll retire, you'll get a pension also.
Mm,
So let me give you a anecdote which happened to me last week, which will kind of summarize my own personal worldview on what is in scope for the future, and then
sure,
we'll come back to the question you have. And all of this is related, so
sure,
uh, you should humor me with some more time to
sure.
explain some
Please,
anecdote.
please go ahead.
So this is a very close friend of mine whose son, very smart boy, when was traveling to Bangalore. So my friend said that he's a young boy. He's from a very reputed college, and he would like to have him meet me and just get some advice, because these days the field that I'm in, data and AI, people think that maybe their children can get some exposure to me. So he came over, in 2 3 years experience. So he was, like I said, good college, had some good offers, but chose the startup type option. And in
Mm,
these 3 years, he had changed a couple of jobs. He was working in I think, some kind of a founder's office type role, which is very upgrowing company,
mm,
earning, I think, 40, 50 lakhs, some such good salary, very good salary,
got
which happens these days. And we see that happening all the time. In fact, I was surprised these days in some of these big tech companies, even, smart engineers with 2 or 3 years experience are earning even more than a crore, and so on and so forth. So anyway, so these types of things are happening in some quarters, not very well known, but it's happening nevertheless. Startups, it's quite common. So the first question he asked was, Uncle, I think I'm earning too much. I'm wondering how I should think about it. I don't think my dad or you guys earn so much, so I've got
it.
too much too fast. Is it good? Is it bad? What should I do? So I was taken aback. I said, I think actually you're the first one who has asked me this question. People who get too much never feel that they're earning too much. They always feel that they actually deserved it, and someone spotted them really early and found their worth. So they are very happy with that. But you have asked a very good question. So I think, let me share with you what I think. So I said, when I joined the workforce to now, 32 years, I don't know what the CAGR of my salary will be, but it must be in some double digit. In fact, I should go back to my Excel sheet and put my first salary and now salary and see what is the CAGR, but it must be a good double digit number. And I said, you guys also must be expecting that, you should have a double digit CAGR of your salary. So I said, why don't you do this? You go do this experiment. You put that 40, 50 lakh in an Excel sheet, put just a simple 10, 12% CAGR over the next 30, 35 years. My suspicion is that whatever number you see, it will be difficult to imagine that is possible. He said, Uncle, I will do it, but I can tell you, I agree with you. I know I know enough maths to say whatever you are saying is true.
Mm,
So I said, okay, so therefore, what it really means is that linear growth model, which is rooted in our brain, is already gone. But unfortunately, because there is no new model which has taken shape, we are
mm,
all still living in that same model, that linear growth model. Tell you join a company, you get increments, you get promoted
mm,
everywhere. The salary goes up, all of those types of things. Mostly, you don't get fired. All of those things, right?
mm,
Now, since you agree that whatever your assumption is, that model has failed. So, what will that new model look like?
mm,
So I said that I think my suspicion is that you are 2, 3 years into the workforce, and if you take another 30 years of your life, my suspicion is that your career trajectory will sometimes go up, sometimes be flat, sometimes be zero, that you're out of job, sometimes come down. So all kind of possible combination you should expect in the future.
mm,
And I said, you should expect it with open arms and not with this thing that moroseness that, oh, this is going against the tide.
mm,
I think that is the nature of what you should expect. And the reason I say that is that why all of that will happen is that the world will change very fast. Already the change is starting to happen.
mm,
And when changes happen very fast, sometimes your current skills may become irrelevant. You may start to lose that relevance and suddenly get fired.
mm,
And immediately you may not get something. So you may have to wait for some time or reskill yourself. So that may explain this. Maybe at some point in time you may feel that, what, whatever I'm learning, this is good, but there are one or two other things that I want to learn which I have no idea of.
mm,
Can I go get that exposure in a different team in this company or in a different company who allows me to do that?
mm,
And if you were to do that, you will be a novice in that field. They may not pay you the same that you are being paid here, because here you are leveraging your skill, you are an expert. It's almost like when a couple, they retired from cricket and wanted to play golf, and he would have expected them to pay him the same as we was at the top of his cricket career. What was possible. But later on, he became a golf champion as well and could command a premium. So that way, your new place where you go maybe will pay you according to your skill level in that context. And
mm,
you may also say, okay, I'm willing to sort of learn and pay. I mean, we all pay for coaching to learn badminton and other things. So why would you not take a salary cut, if I may, to take on
mm,
a role where you're acquiring new skills? And
mm,
by the way, you will do that because over time you think that if you acquire 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 new skills,
mm,
over time that unique combination
mm.
will continue to keep you either relevant or more valuable.
Yeah.
So, which is the reason you will do all of that? You will not do
Mm,
it out of some other reason. And it will be good that you will say, and he said, actually, uncle, you are very right. And so I said, tell me. So he said, I was been doing some work here, but I
mm,
thought I should get an exposure to sales. I said,
right.
okay. And where? I said, I believe the best, and he sometimes I'm very surprised how some of these young people have such ideas. So he
Mm,
said, I'm into enterprise sales, and I think the best place to learn enterprise sales is in California. So
ah,
I want to go to California and take up a role in enterprise sales. I said, wow.
mm,
Anyway, so I said, let's say hypothetically someone gives you a relatively lower paying job in California to do this.
mm,
Should you take it? He said, yeah, because I want to learn it. So I said, you've answered my question. So I said, therefore, you have to design your life for the future and your career with the
mm,
assumption that things will change.
mm,
Many times I will make choices which will
mm,
make me do things which are different, therefore get paid accordingly.
mm,
Sometimes I'll be blindsided and I'll get fired or not get the same job, and therefore I'll have to start. And therefore, the
mm.
career graph will be quite zigzag,
Yep.
unlike the linear graph that the previous generation has seen.
Yep.
And therefore, I should be prepared for it. I
Mm,
should not feel that, oh, this job is a sense of identity. So a loss of job or a lower pay has suddenly, lost significance. I mean, you are sometimes making conscious choices, sometimes you are being blindsided, making a mistake and getting
mm,
fired or whatever, and that should not change the sense of identity you have.
yep.
On the financial front, you should assume that these types of salary won't last forever, so you only spend as much as required, keep enough buffer to go through the bad times and all of that. So I think that your assumptions about the future of the economy of your own life have
Mm,
to be vastly different from me and your dad, who and both of us actually used to work together in a company long ago. So I said we actually had a very different assumption.
yep.
We didn't even have both of us actually didn't have a spouse who was earning. I said in your case you may have a spouse who's earning as well, so you may have
Mm,
double income and you can have more leeway to play around. So I
yep.
said me and your dad actually didn't take such risks, didn't
Mm,
face such headwinds, and
mm,
therefore the assumption of almost a linear growth and no layoff has so far played out for both his dad and me. But I
Yeah.
said that is also that model is breaking down because many of our colleagues are getting laid off, getting a pay cut, and all of those types of things. So I
Mm,
think this will only continue. And I anyway described to you what you should expect in your life. And therefore, you should not have those same assumptions that we have had and have
mm,
a new assumption to
mm,
say, I am going to learn new things, I'm going to do new things. It may lead to lesser salary, sometimes no salary, all of that,
mm,
which is part of the game. This is part of how the new world will look like, and this is part of how my new life will look like.
mm,
And I will not worry. So the other thing I told him was that many a time you also get worried about getting more promotion, getting a higher hike, and all of those types of things, which also puts you under a lot of pressure.
mm,
So I told him that, I also reflected and intuitively in the past what I have done in my own life also is that I have not, pushed my bosses or seniors to give me a bigger promotion or a bigger hike
mm,
for various reasons. Maybe I didn't like it. I didn't feel like asking for it. I didn't even give myself, very outstanding type of rating and say, why didn't you give me that? And, you rated me low, all of that. I
mm,
just gave myself some average rating. Sometimes if the bosses felt that I was above average, they could change it. And if not, I was happy with that. And I told him the reason for doing that was not out of complacency or lack of aspiration.
mm,
I just felt that why should I put my boss in some trouble? Because every boss is already under trouble. They have to make normal distribution made. They have to meet the demands of so many employees who are asking for something. I said, as long as the boss is good and allowing me to do good work, and I'm happy and they are happy,
mm,
let me not put some pressure on them.
yeah,
Let me have them do whatever they have to do. It's not as if my self identity is linked to the rating or a promotion. I
mm,
can derive my self identity out of many other factors, a sense of satisfaction out of job well done, sense of satisfaction out of the stakeholders with whom you work who are appreciating it. So I
mm,
think I have been able to derive satisfaction out of many other subjective metrics outside versus the objective metric inside the company which your bosses have. And
mm,
therefore, I have been quite liberated in that sense that I'm not under any pressure because,
mm,
if you are pushing your boss or other people to give you something, then you're also putting yourself under pressure to
yeah,
adhere to some of those expectations. I said, if at all my bosses have probably been under pressure or guilt to say, maybe we gave him less, maybe we could have given him more. So
mm,
that way, this is how I have at least reflected and thought about some of the ideas. So,
yeah,
Ravi, a bit of a long answer to your short question, but I did want to
mm,
highlight this larger story
sure.
to share with you that I think the future will be very different. But unfortunately, the new model for the future is
Mm,
not properly formed in most people's head. And I think it is important for people to form the right model.
yeah,
Only then can some of these things get addressed holistically versus if you're having that old model in mind, it'll always appear that things are not happening in the right way. There's something
mm,
wrong. But if you really have the right model in mind, still something will change, but you will have less surprises because these days I'm talking now coming back to your senior people question. I talk to a lot of senior people. Many of them have with the same company for 20, 30 years. Many of them have done similar job for a long time. And for various reasons, they are either out of the job or not making progress because of no fault of theirs. The company was giving them promotion, giving them validation, but at
mm,
some point in time, things changed and they are not relevant anymore. Or maybe at that stage, at that level at which they are playing, there are other younger people in those organizations which are able to do the same thing with,
mm,
better tools or better ideas and so on and so forth. So
sure.
I think that is happening, but tying yourself to your identity to your work, which tends to happen,
Mm,
will become problematic as we go in future, especially the younger generation. And the current generation also, I think lots of people in their 40s and 50s. In fact, I used to tell people that when you're 50, it's hard to find a job. And if you're 55, then it'll be impossible to find a job. And yesterday I was talking to some relatively younger people, and they were saying the same thing about 40s. Now, maybe some of these things are happening and
mm,
people may become irrelevant faster. But I think the point is to keep reinventing, keep collecting the dots and getting new experiences. Because to me, one, it is anyway good to collect new dots and get new experiences. And two, if you do many of that, maybe some of those dots will connect in unexpected fashions to create value for yourself. So I'll pause.
absolutely. Absolutely, Pankaj. I think what I was thinking is have your coffee. While you do that, I just wanted to go through a couple of items on the proposal, which so kind of a marketing pitch I want to use. So 2 minutes, you have time to aram se have your
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah, no, I've had her.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the mission statement basically for the silent boardroom, and thanks so much for the kind of background you actually gave. Pankaj helps a lot. Uh, the reason why the silent boardroom came, it's not just a new initiative just like that, but I've also been talking at my own level, people coming out of the corporate, forced to really, move out of the corporate, which they really do not want to do. And there is a loss of identity there. They don't feel emotionally safe, and they can't really talk it out either to their friends or colleagues, or to their ex-bosses as well. So that is one reason as to why we came up with this silent boardroom initiative, to create a confidential, emotionally safe, and deeply reflective mentoring space for senior leaders. Need not be just for senior leaders, but actually any employees. But they're actually navigating ambiguity, career transitions, and identity shifts or leadership fatigue. Now, unlike conventional coaching, the ICF or job placement services, this particular model, Pankaj, offers executives an opportunity to engage in honest, structured, and deeply personal conversations beyond the limits of their organizational networks or personal circles as such. Now, I think you did define the problem very, very clear, but just want to, just go through the problem. So the senior most levels of leadership, executives often face a very unique isolation. And as their titles grow, as you said, Pankaj, freedom to speak openly shrinks. Vulnerabilities remain hidden, personal doubts accumulate, and career transitions often evoke a deep identity crisis. Now, traditional coaching models are either too transactional or too generic to serve the nuanced needs of this audience. And leaders often seek spaces where they explore not only their career direction, but also deeper questions of personal fulfillment, identity reconstruction, and long-term purpose as such. So they need a non-judgmental, private space where there is no pressure to perform or impress, but only to reflect, recalibrate, and rebuild with clarity. Uh, and this is the solution we have come up with, where we offer a boutique premium mentoring practice built exclusively for the leaders, senior professionals, VPs, SVPs, and CXOs, who seek this kind of trusted space. Now, the model combines one-to-one deep mentoring conversations, highly curated peer group cohorts, and reflective leadership research labs. Now, what are the core offerings? Just four core offerings, Pankaj, before I ask you the next question. The first one is structured as a private master mentoring, and provides leaders with monthly private conversations of 90 to 120 minutes each, supplemented by continuous access via email or voice messaging for ongoing reflections. The focus is to hold space for deeply personal leadership conversations and career reconstruction planning, emotional recalibration, and anchoring during moments of ambiguity. That's the number one. Second offering is a trusted boardroom cohort where small groups of 6 to 8 carefully selected participants, monthly closed door virtual conversations are facilitated. Now, each session allows for shared reflection, case study discussions, and rotating hot seat formats where one participant's real world situation becomes a central focus. Now, this ensures peer learning while preserving confidentiality. Third one is a leadership reset lab, which is a structured 3-week small group program designed for those needing a short, sharp reset of personal clarity. Includes 3 intensive 90-minute sessions focusing on identity reconstruction, emotional unfreezing, and future direction mapping. Fourth one is an annual offering called the Inner Circle Retreat, where it's designed as a premium in-person 2-day annual closed-door retreat for the most committed members. This physical forum rather allows participants to disconnect from operational routines and engage in deep reflection, facilitated dialogues, and shared growth, with again an anchored environment. So, Pankaj, these are the ones which I actually thought were the offerings for the silent boardroom. Uh, Coming back, I would love your thoughts on this, or I can actually ask you the next question.
Yeah, I think from whatever I can make out, that there are these various mechanisms which will allow people to deal with the problem that they're facing today. I mean, it's like there are all these religions and philosophies which also allow us to deal with our problems and figuring out our path. I think in my mind, there are two goals that are there. And all of these paths or mechanisms should answer, in my opinion, those two questions only.
Sure.
First one is, what is my interpretation of how does the world work? And second is, what is my role going to be in that? So let
Yeah.
me give you an example. So again, in some of these conversations related to layoff, I mean, I've heard some senior people say that oh, this system is really unfair. The company is very bad. Boss was bad, or actually the entire capitalist system is so bad it is creating inequality. It is doesn't care about the workers. It fires them at will. This, that, and there. Right. So there is a narrative that different people have about the system. It could be anything, right? My sort of view to many of these people has been that no one designed any of these systems. These systems have come about. Capitalism is a system of mechanism which has its own incentives. It has its own players who play a role. I don't think when people say, "Oh, these rich are sucking blood of the poor," and this, that, and the other. I don't think many of us actually could be considered rich compared to many people below us in the pyramid. I don't think any of us are thinking about sucking blood of anyone else. Maybe there are a few. Similarly, at the top of the pyramid, also, I don't think someone is waking up in the morning thinking I'll suck blood. Some poor people become richer. All of that. I think everyone is driven by the incentive which is there at the role at which they are playing. So a big businessman has an incentive that, this is my company, this is my group, I want to do this, I want to do that. So they are pursuing that purpose of whoever the shareholder is and this, that, and the other. Worker is doing their own thing. Just that this whole, I mean, what we call the capitalist system, and lots of research has happened, is actually designed to promote meritocracy within some bounds of regulation. But in my opinion, and I think probably Thomas Piketty's the Nobel Prize winning book also alluded to it, that I think rising inequality is probably a feature of capitalism and not a bug. A lot of people look at these inequality as something wrong, which is bad. Just like friction is a feature of the physical universe, not a bug. I think inequality is exactly that, because you are really saying that everyone can pursue their own means. Abilities are different. People are starting at different points in time, and those who accumulate more will actually tend to accumulate more. And my simple explanation over there is that there are two factors of production: labor and capital. Actually, capital earns more return on itself than labor does. And that you can see in your own household. So if you have house help who work for you, just imagine a 20-year period. Your salary or wealth would have been X, their salary or wealth would have been Y. In that 20-year period, the inequality or the Gini coefficient in your house must have gone up. The difference between rich and poor in your own house must have gone up. So if it is true for your household, why would it not be true for everywhere? Just because when you get a salary increment, you didn't give the same increment to your maid or driver or gardener or whoever it is. And whatever wealth you accumulated, you were able to get the best investment advisors to give you 15% return. They, first of all, didn't have any saving. And if they had, they probably were not getting this kind of return out of that, right? So very clearly, this capitalist system will create inequality. We can reduce it, we can find ways to redistribute it, but it will increase if not contained properly. And therefore, how the world works, the narrative for that, everyone will have to find, because the narrative that they find is really very depressing, to say the world is designed to be against me, or favor some people against the other and all of that. So if you find a very pessimistic type of narrative for yourself, I think that'll be a problem, because I think any narrative that you create which is unable to create some optimism and inspiration, that will be problematic. And many a times it is quite easy to create a negative narrative based on the news that you see, the people that you talk to, because the negativity is almost many a time externalizing the problem, making it someone else's problem,
Right.
blaming it on them and feeling good about it. But
Mm.
it doesn't help. It's a
Yeah.
nice temporary relief that,
Mm.
I blamed it to someone, it's not my fault.
Mm.
I'm the good guy, someone else is a bad guy. So this whatever has happened to me has happened because of someone else, not my fault.
Mm.
Is good and not a bad thing as a human nature to sort of vent it out and rant it out.
Mm.
But we all know that unless we take control of our life and narrative, we won't move forward. So therefore, number one question is everyone has to find a narrative through which they can derive some optimism, right?
Right.
Because it is easy to derive a narrative of the
Mm.
world where there is pessimism. So that's a bad place to start.
Yeah.
Optimism is a good place to start. Second is, where is it that I can play? What can I do? So, by the way, if you have created optimism, to answer to question number one, there is some fuel, there's
Mm.
some ideas, there are some experiments that you do, and that is what you really want to do. Saying, okay, I have been given the card that I have. Can I get a fresh set of cards? Can I play with these cards and hope to win or whatever? So
Mm.
basically, being in the game, experimenting, trying and trying again is what we want from everyone to at least aspire to do.
Yep.
And therefore, that is the second thing that people will have to figure out. What do I do? How do I do it? What is my situation here?
Mm.
Uh, I should not tie my identity to what happened to me. This is just a system, and I have now understood the system. Now
Mm.
I try to figure out how to play in this system, keeping in mind whatever it is all about, and
Yep.
see how I can also contribute and make my place. So I think, to my mind, these are the two things:
Mm.
finding a meaningful narrative about how the world works,
Yep.
which provides some inspiration or optimism,
Yep.
and then utilizing that as a fuel to find your own personal next steps,
Mm.
your way of thinking about it to make a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely, Pankaj. I think overall you gave a strategic view in terms of how people should reflect and think through. But I do have some of these
Absolutely.
themes and
Yeah.
questions, and
Yeah.
if you feel that it's a repeated one, I think we can move forward.
No,
So
no, I'll repeat the answer. It's good to repeat certain things sometime because it becomes
absolutely,
better.
absolutely. So the theme we're looking at is navigating the in between. So questions around why is the space between roles or chapters often more difficult than the exit itself, and how can leaders remain grounded and hopeful when the next opportunity is not yet visible, Pankaj?
Yeah. So I think, like I said, that if you think of the larger organizational career as a system and not take it very personally, and imagine that this system will have its flaws. You will not be always able to take advantage of it, and there'll be time when it will not work for you. I mean, many things don't work for us all the time, right? In
Yeah.
relationships and many other things. So I think any system that you are a participant of cannot always work for you. You are a sports person, some days you will lose. You are a betting person, you will lose some days. You are a financial investor, you lose someday. You are a career person, you lose someday.
Mm.
You are a relationship person, you lose someday. So I think we all know and accept losses in pretty much every walk of life all the time,
Yeah.
as if it's a given. But unfortunately, in careers, we don't expect any loss, and it's not tolerable. That doesn't sound right. Just like Wall Street analysts say that every quarter your profit has to go up. How is it possible? Every other places there'll be some ups and down. How can every quarter your company where you have invested profit has to go up every quarter, right? Don't you think that's what they say? So I think
Absolutely.
somehow in the corporate sector, capitalist sector, the employee wants the salary and the designation and the promotion to go up.
Yeah.
Wall Street analyst also wants everything to go up. And
Mm.
we all know that both of them are having the wrong expectation. It is not rooted in past data and
Yeah.
they can do it. But unfortunately, they still want to believe it. So my view is, first of all, you have to change that belief system and just look around you and just ask some basic commonsensical question that nothing is the world is static. Everything is cyclical. Something will go, something will come down. Can I not just be prepared for it? When you lose a match, you don't go into depression and not play again. When you
Yeah.
come back and say, okay, I'll try again. So I look at it in this way that you can just use your common sense in other walks of your life where you are applying it perfectly.
Yeah.
Just in your career, or if you are a Wall Street analyst in your investment, you're having some random expectation which is not rooted in data or reality.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If
Absolutely,
you
Pankaj.
think about it that way,
Yeah.
it will be fine. Just like they are fine in your relationship and your other walks of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
It's all
Pankaj.
about expectation. They all say, no, the all misery and sorrow arise out of wrong expectations,
Absolutely.
unfortunately.
No, absolutely, Pankaj. Thank you. Thank you for that. Next one is on fear of becoming irrelevant. Pankaj. So how do you handle the feeling that your network is moving ahead while you are standing still? And what strategies actually help maintain confidence when visibility and influence begin to fade?
Yeah. So again, many a time we make a conclusion based on a single event or a single data points, very immediately. So someone did not say good morning to you, you felt invalidated. That looks like maybe I'm not important. These two, three people today morning did not say good morning. Or in that job interview, I failed, so I must have been relevant. Or in that race that I went to, I did not do well, I did not finish, so I must have. So I think we all tend to make immediate sort of conclusions based on a single data point.
Yeah.
That happens in other walks of life also. We'll see something happening, one, and we will generalize for the whole world, like, all Indians are like that. All men are like that. You had a bad experience when, let's say, with a certain culture, and you will brand the entire culture. With a certain gender, brand the entire gender. So I think it is some kind of a human nature
Mm.
to generalize based on a single data point.
Yeah.
And of course, in the field of data science and all, we all say that, oh, you've got to look at more data points, find the trend, look for a signal, not react to noise. But
Mm.
unfortunately, we are reacting to, you can say noise because it's a single data point, it can't be a signal. So I do think that immediately concluding that because I lost the job or I didn't get the promotion or something bad happened, I could not have become irrelevant based on that single data point, right? So I do think that again, going back to first principle, one should say, oh, when I lose a game, do I believe that I have become irrelevant in that sport and I should not play again? No. But when I lose, I mean, in a relationship, you try something, it didn't work out. It's not as if you stop doing it, you try again. So
Yeah.
my view is that here again is the same, going back to first principle to say, if something happened one time, how can you conclude that it will happen every time and that is the conclusion? Just like in every other walk of life, you have not taken that one thing as an answer and conclusion and given up. You tried again. So here also, I would say just apply the same principle and look differently, talk to different people, try again, so on and so forth.
Um, how do we reimagine success is the next theme, and questions around how do you redefine success when titles, promotions, and compensation no longer apply? And what questions can help uncover a more personal and lasting sense of fulfillment, Pankaj?
Yeah, yeah. So I think one of the human motivation theory given by someone is purpose, autonomy, and mastery. So they said that these three variables define your motivation. So purpose meaning you have a desire to do something. Autonomy and you have the autonomy to try out different things. And mastery means that you've tried a few times and you're mastery. So I think these three variables seem to contribute to our motivation. So I was actually talking to some students last week who were entering college. And I had some reflection to say, what is it when I went to college? I did not know, but learned later.
Mm.
And I wanted to tell them that insight that I have gathered over the many years of working. And the reflection that came to me was that I think our education system, even the family system, almost inadvertently trains us to believe that there are some other people over there who are more senior, more wise, more whatever than you, who have the right questions, and your job is to find the right answer. So all the exam system is based on some teachers know the question, they will tell you the question, you have to find the answer. And in at home also, and sometimes in office also, the boss will tell you what is the question, you have to find the answer. Parents will tell you this has to be done, you have to find the answer. So somewhere asking the right question was never your responsibility, is the inadvertent theory that builds in your head that someone will tell me
Mm.
and then I will do it.
Yep.
And then I will do it better than the peer group that I have. And then I'll be okay. That, you play cricket, play better than the other guy, you'll win. You do this math test, you get to the. So therefore, question someone else will give. And you got to compete with some of the peer group that are around you and do it better, faster, smarter, whatever. And that is the mental model that inadvertently gets formed in your head when you are in college.
So,
But when you come out in the real world, and more so now, I think the previous world was a bit of a linear world where maybe there were some places where someone told you you did it better than the next guy, and maybe you survived, and some of us have had that. But
mm.
in today's future real world, which is going to unfold over the next 20, 30 years, I think what we will all find is that we will have to find the right questions which are worth answering.
Mm.
Then we will only have to find the right answers to those questions. And there may not be other people next to us finding those answers. So there's no one that we are competing with and have to, beat someone else to that question. So now, if you think about it, now suddenly you have to ask questions. Suddenly you also have to find answers without any peer comparison. And that is also a bit strange. But frankly, if you think about it, the combination of these two, the question and the answer, is really your contribution. If you think about in your life, the question that you asked and the action that you did, those two things really define your contribution to your own life or to people around you.
Yep.
That we all know. That the question answer that I spoke about, the combination is equal to a contribution.
Yep.
In the past question was someone else, answer was better, so that was your contribution, you got a grade. But in today's world, figuring out your own question, figuring out your own answer without peer group comparison is a very fuzzy thing for a lot of people.
Mm.
Because they say, okay, how do I know this is the right question? How do I seek validation? Okay, somehow I find the question. How do I know this is the best answer? So many a times, a lot of people can get very confused and distracted and lost in this probabilistic definition that I'm articulating versus the more deterministic definition that we are so much used to. So it's almost like you grew up in the Newtonian theory, and now quantum comes along and totally disturbs you because nothing is certain suddenly.
Yeah.
So I do think that today's world, to use my analogy, has turned from Newtonian to quantum, which is really the real reality.
Mm.
Quantum is a reality. Newtonian was just a subset of quantum.
Yeah.
So if you are in this new reality of quantum, better get used to that because nothing is certain and nothing is sure, nothing is deterministic, but that's how it is. So that should not be debilitating or uncomfortable. It should be, I mean, you should thrive in it, I would say. I think if you understand whatever it is the way it is, now let's thrive in it. Why should we get worried about it? We were worried because we were expecting it to be something else, and that's why we worried. So I think if we accept the reality for what it is, then we can thrive. But somehow, inadvertently in our mind, we are hoping the reality to be something else, and therefore it is fearful. So I think the purpose for all of us is to somehow be able to come to term with the reality on what is and then deal with it. Then you can thrive. But if you have not accepted it, it is confusing, it is worrisome, it is fearful, is what my thinking is.
Fantastic answer. Pankaj. Very, very touching and interesting. So the last one for you, Pankaj, silent reflection as renewal. In what ways can deliberate quiet help leaders process transition and find clarity? And how can silence become a supportive practice rather than an uncomfortable void?
So, and you alluded to this question earlier also, where you said that people are unable to talk to each other, someone, and they feel isolated. Not only in layoff situation, I think it is often said that it's lonely at the top.
Yeah.
And then it kind of conjures a nice image that the top is like a Himalayan peak. And if you actually climb the Everest, it will be only at the top because there is only one position over there. You can't have 50 people standing there. So I think that imagery that has been drilled into our head of being lonely at the top or not being able to talk to each other, all that, at least in my opinion, is maybe rooted again in the older manufacturing era where hierarchies were there and so on and so forth. I think that was probably already going away because you would have heard of many people talking about flatter organizations, participative decision making, even our this sabka saath, sabka vikas, sabka vishwas, sabka prayas. All of these are talking about collaboration, compassion, working together, all of that, and not being lonely at any level. So I do think that that notion in my mind is an older notion
Mm.
which many people have not been able to give up. Because when I look at my own experience, I don't know whether I was at the top or bottom or wherever, I have never felt lonely. In fact, for me, the best way of reflection was actually talking. So a lot of people, and I think people are manufactured differently and they behave differently. Then are people who are meditative. They look inward and find answers. I seem to be someone that who seeks answers by talking to people. So for me, if I'm wanting to find an answer, I would talk to a lot of people, even strangers. And to me, that's a good way to find answers. And I'm happy to share anything with them and get their inputs and all of that. There are others who will do the other way around. So I don't think, at least my own experience has told me that you choose to be lonely.
Mm.
You don't have to be lonely. And at least I would say that I am a good example of saying that you can talk to anyone about anything for any number of hours and get what you want. And therefore, I would suggest to a lot of people who think that it is lonely at the top or you can't confide in people and learn from them to try this out. Because for me, it seems to have worked very well. I talk to people from all walks of life on my run, in my flights, and in anything that I do. I just last 2 3 days ago, I was on a flight. Then there was a research scientist type of a person sitting next to me with 10, 15 years of experience. There was a student who had just got a new job after engineering on the other. Three of us got talking and exchanged so many good ideas from each other. So I do think that if you are open-minded and talk to a lot of people and willing to share your thoughts, ask questions, I think there's so much to learn from anyone and everyone. I mean, I always tell people that people stand in front of a picture or a murti or some god and derive a lot of lessons from them. Then, if you can talk to other fellow human beings, I'm sure you can derive some lessons from them also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pankaj. Uh, thanks a lot. Very, very insightful, Pankaj. I think this is going to help a lot of people. I think across levels, anyone not having a job and having this kind of uh, previous era kind of thinking would actually listen to your advice, and if they actually follow it, I think first of all, what's the outcome is peacefulness. Peace. They actually feel peace. That okay, I've thought a bit wrong. Now this is the right way. Let me actually take the direction. So thanks a lot for your time, Pankaj. I think we dealt with five different themes in this particular podcast. We started off with the loss of identity and routine. Then you had insights on navigating the in between. We looked at fear of becoming irrelevant, reimagining success, and silent reflection as renewal. So, Pankaj, thanks a lot for your time, and I'll pull you in again for another podcast. Uh, any concluding words before we sign off?
Yeah, I'm reading a book by Deutsch. It's called The Beginning of Infinity. So he's basically, talking about science, and he's saying the goal of science is to find a better explanation of what is happening around us.
Mm.
And it is an ongoing quest. So again, using that whole physics phenomena, that Newtonian physics was a good explanation, but then quantum was a better explanation. Tomorrow, something else can be an even better explanation. So I think wherever we are in our lives, I think we give some narrative or an explanation to the system that we are a part of, whether it is a capitalist system, family system, whichever system. But I think if that explanation is not inspiring us or not giving us guidance, then there is a problem. So I think we should continue to seek a better explanation of the world around us, and an explanation that inspires us is probably the right explanation. Again, we should seek more of that, but I do think that getting satisfied with the news around us or negative experiences of others, which kind of depress us, is probably not a good explanation. So, to me, I will just qualify that better explanation, at least in our social world, should be an inspiring and an optimistic one, and we should continue to strive to find that one. And when we find that one, I think we create the fuel in ourselves to then do certain things. So that's how I would kind of leave the parting thought, is that maybe when you are down and out, the explanation in front of us, which is staring at you, is probably a negative, depressing one. Let's find a way through all of those mechanisms, Ravi, that you mentioned, or any others, to find an explanation that inspires us and makes us optimistic, because that is the starting point of action that we can take and experimentation they can do to remedy the situation that we are in.
Perfect conclusion, Pankaj. Thanks a lot for your time again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ravi. Okay, bye.